Hello and welcome to episode 90 of Retro Encounter, RPG fans off-topic, game-specific, whatever you want to talk about podcast. My name is Mike Sollosi. I'm Monsoon on the boards, and I'm here for another fine episode with another fine panel here with me. So, starting with Rob Fenner.
Towns Carmarty on the boards. I've got my special Mock Pizza branded shirt from Fangamer on, so you know I'm ready for the war against Gygas.
Oh, man. God, I don't even want to think of the level of EarthBound merch out there. I'm sure it's way above me. All right, and also we have Keegan Lee joining us again.
Hey folks, Fozzie Bear on the boards, and I am the EarthBound newbie for today's episode.
Oh, yes. I can't wait to hear your reactions for that exact reason, Keegan.
One of us.
You're going to be just painting everything blue by the end of the month. And joining us for the first time in Retro Encounter, we have a new panelist, Hilary Andreff.
Hello. I have a NES hat. Unfortunately, I don't have it with me, but still a huge fan of EarthBound. Excited to be here.
Now, are you sure it's a NES hat, or did someone just sell you a Pokemon trainer hat and tell you it was a NES hat? Because I mean,
it's definitely not a Pokemon trainer hat.
I don't know. I couldn't tell the difference. I don't know about you guys.
Hey, it's all a matter of perspective.
So, if you hadn't gathered by now, audience, we're talking about EarthBound for this month, over 2 episodes. This is the first of those. The classic Super Nintendo RPG from what I guess is an in-house Nintendo studio, because I mean, EarthBound and Mother in general are Nintendo first party. Am I assuming that right?
Yeah, it's a HAL game.
Okay, it's a HAL game but I'm still not sure exactly what Studio APE is, but
oh, that's just Itoi's own little brand.
Okay, I get it. So it's like Bird Studio or something for Akira Toriyama.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, I got
Armor
it. Studio
for Yuji Horii.
Got it. Okay, so speaking of which, Mother 1, which was a NES game, was basically a Dragon Quest clone of sorts that had, some unusual setting and tone and dialogue and story, but really wasn't. I don't think it's the most impressive NES game. We don't have to get too deep into that. But its sequel, Mother 2, called EarthBound in Other Territories, is something totally different and I think is quite a special RPG and holds a very dear place in the hearts of many RPG fans. And it was a runaway winner of our internal poll for what game to play this month. So now, I'm going to be picking on you all episode, Keegan, so we might as well start right now. Just give me your brief EarthBound history and your very immediate abridged thoughts on the game so far.
So my brief history of EarthBound was I knew Ness from Super Smash Bros. I know there's a character named Pooh in here, and I know that the last boss is supposed to be horrifying. That's all I knew about the game going in. And so far, to say I'm amazed is like understatement, and I've got plenty to say later.
Excellent. All right, Hilary, same question. Your brief EarthBound history and your thoughts on replaying the game.
Sure. I played a good chunk of it over 10 years ago, watched more of it, so I'm pretty familiar with the whole run of the game. And going back to it, I'm still amazed by how touching and uplifting it is, honestly. This game is a huge mood booster.
Right on. Okay, and Rob, same question to you. Sorry, I'm just repeating myself over and over today.
That's all right.
I'm afraid.
I was an avid reader of EGM as a child. They used to have a section in each issue devoted to highlighting what games were on the horizon coming out in Japan. And I think it was 1993 or 1994, they ran some screenshots and a description of Mother 2. And I was like, that looks amazing, and we're probably never, ever going to see it. Lo and behold, the following year, EarthBound was announced for release, and it had this goofy, kind of gross out scratch and sniff trading card ad campaign around it, and I was over the moon that Mother 2 was coming, because I'm a Midwestern kid, and seeing a game that recreated traveling through the Midwest to the big city through a skewed Japanese satirical lens, I was like, wow, I couldn't ask for anything more. So I am a lifelong fan of EarthBound. It's probably one of my top 3 RPGs, if not my favorite RPG, and it has held up remarkably well. It's been a real pleasure to play it again with you guys.
Right. I remember a little less than a year ago when we were on the episode 50 podcast, we each like pitched a game to play in the new year, and it ended up being Alana's pick, Shadow Hearts Covenant. But you suggested EarthBound on that episode.
Yeah, the boring guy.
But I mean, EarthBound's a special game to me too. I wasn't quite in as early as you were. When I first got into RPGs was the early to mid '90s, when I was perhaps 7 or 8, and after I had played, Final Fantasy 4 and 6 and a few others, one of my friends lent me his copy of EarthBound, which I think still is his favorite game of all time, and insisted I had to play it because it was set in America, maybe, and and you ate hamburgers instead of drinking potions, and you were a kid with a baseball bat was your main character, and I played it and I liked it. But I didn't maybe understand all of the things going on in EarthBound, at least to the awareness that I would have as playing as an adult. And I did play it a second time when I was emulating every single game I possibly could and replaying a bunch of older games in the early 2000s. So this is my third time playing EarthBound, I think. And it holds, now that I'm looking at it with a bit more of a critical eye and a less of a nostalgic eye, it holds up even better. I'm really impressed with what it does with its tone and its color and occasional subversion of video game ideas and mechanics. There's a lot to talk about with EarthBound, so I think we'll start at the beginning. A young boy named Ness is shaken awake by a landing meteorite and checks out the meteorite with his annoying neighbor Pokey, and is informed that he is a boy of prophecy who needs to seek out 3 other companions and save the world. And it happens a little quickly, but let's just stay in the town of Wannette, the first town in the game, and I'll start with Robert. What kind when you're exploring Wannette for the first time, like, what are the things you notice? What do you think is the most interesting about the first hour or so of EarthBound?
Okay, a hot take. I think that Onett is the hardest part of the game.
I think that Tucson is the hardest part of the game, but we can talk about that later. Mm-hmm.
Certainly. You start out at level 1. You are alone, and you are usually going up against a group of gang members or some wild animals. It's very, very easy to get knocked down, which can be a little bit discouraging at first. But I think exploring Onett is such a pleasurable and bizarre introduction to an RPG world. You're just on the outskirts of this little suburb, and you bumble down to town and stopping at pizza places, stopping at the library to get your town map, and fight a gang that's hanging out in the arcade. But these bright colors and these sort of like 1940s, 1950s build aluminum-sided houses. It bears a striking resemblance to Peanuts. I think Itoi must have been a Peanuts fan.
Yeah, there's I'm sorry to interrupt. There's one reviewer who many of us probably are familiar with, Yahtzee from The Escapist. He mentioned that EarthBound is one of the few Japanese RPGs he likes, and he described it with the Cthulhu mythos joining the Charlie Brown and Snoopy show, which is maybe one of my favorite metaphors I've heard from a games writer. So I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
Well, hey, you've said it better than me. But as you explore this town, you get this sense, like it's EarthBound's tone is simultaneously sweet and subversive. You talk with the other kids in the treehouse. You call your mom, or you go see your mom when you're feeling lonely to cure the homesickness affliction, and then the cops are just building barricades to just for the sake of bureaucracy. And then when you want to leave town, the cops take you in the back room and try to beat you up. So there's like this challenge of authority figures, but still this sort of I wouldn't say. Family friendly sounds like the wrong point that I'm trying to get across, but it's like fun for all ages, but still uncompromising and sarcastic in its tone. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, I'd agree with that. something I noticed playing it now that I didn't notice playing as a kid is how oppressive the atmosphere is. Maybe it's because I've very recently played Persona 5 and these thoughts are on my mind. But adults are getting in your way and discounting your activities, or even trying to cover up your activities all the time in Earthbound. Because you're running afoul of the police force in, I think, like at least 2 of the 4 of the first 5 cities, and adults are either consistently getting in your way or falling under evil influence easily. It really feels like a sort of a twisted lens of kids versus adults, and in a way that I don't know. They remind me of a combination of incompetence and unbelieving, like the police in an Alfred Hitchcock movie or something.
It's challenging these overzealous authority figures at every turn, and to be honest, I didn't remember it being, having exactly that much to its tone as it actually does, and it kind of paves the way to Mother 3, which is pretty much kind of like a Marxist manifesto.
Oh yeah, Mother 3 is more authority challenging and political than Mother 2.
Yeah, I completely, I must have gone over my head, or I just forgotten just how well these 2 games tie together. And it's not quite as innocent as I remember it being. It's much more knowing when I revisit it,
Right on. And one thing that you mentioned that I want to ask Keegan, you mentioned that there's a homesickness stat, which can come up rather unexpectedly if you don't visit or call your mom often enough. So, Keegan, did Ness get stuck with homesickness as you were playing the game at any time?
No, I actually haven't gotten it, and to be honest, I haven't called my mom or visited her. So
okay, because
I'm surprised.
All right, for the uninitiated, Keegan or listeners, sometimes Ness gets homesick if he hasn't spoken to his mother in a while, and which means that it won't look like anything on the map, but in any battle, he'll just sit around and not do anything or get hungry for steak or something. Or you have to mention your favorite. One of the things you mentioned at the beginning of the game when you're creating your characters basically is what Ness's favorite food is, and the default is steak. I don't know what it is in Japanese. And so yeah, that is one thing that I remember the very first time I played the game. I think I was in Saturn Valley or Master Barf's headquarters, and suddenly Ness was totally ineffective in battle, and I had no idea what was going on. So that ended up in a game over, and me figuring out what to do shortly after. But Hilary, same thing that I asked Robert earlier. Just the first hour or 90 minutes of the game when you're in Onet or Onet, what are your sort of thoughts revisiting that for the first time, or revisiting that? I'm sorry. Words.
Well, it's interesting because I kept thinking of something that sort of ties in really well to what was just said, which is this sort of duality, because everything does seem there's great bright color. Everything seems pretty cheery. In some cases, you can go back and visit home as you're starting out, but at the same time, there are some kind of very sinister undertones, and it actually reminded me of something I heard of, which was a kind of a documentary of EarthBound, actually, that was done as a horror movie. So I kind of had that on my mind as I was going through it.
Okay.
Thinking, what would it actually look like if these children were going around, fighting these really sometimes creepy, corrupting influences. And you don't get quite so much of that as you're starting out, but it does start to creep in toward the end of that first hour or so.
Awesome. So, yeah, you have, bureaucratic policemen and opportunistic mayors and a very colorful, cheery-looking city that, with, but you're only hearing the very beginning of sort of the dark undertones of EarthBound. These, I think, is the unifying factor those Mani Mani statues that are getting around?
It's just one Mani Mani statue, but it's making around.
Yeah, so far.
Right, and first Liar Exaggerate has it, then Pokey steals it and takes it to the cultist, and then Everdread steals it and takes it to Foreside, where it's stolen from him, and then you destroy it in Foreside, right?
Correct.
Yes.
Right. Okay. So that Mani Mani statue is some sort of connection between the events of the first couple towns and what's going on behind the scenes, which is some kind of invasion or world domination attempt by something called Gygus or Gigas, right? how are we gonna? What's our take on pronouncing that word? Giygas.
I think it's meant to be Gygus.
Gygus.
But
That's how I always said it.
It's like the unpronounceable Gigu or something in Japanese. So
Sure.
I mean, Gygus works.
All right, I'll take Gygus. So and the second half of the game you face Gygus' stuff more directly. But so anyway, it reaches Gygus that he's going to be thwarted by 3 boys and 1 girl, and the first of whom is Ness. And so once you make it to the second town of the game, Tucson, Ness recruits Paula to his cause, who is the girl in that prophecy. And something that I alluded to earlier, I think that Tucson, up until you recruit Paula, is the hardest part of the game. For some of the same reasons Robert thought Onett was the hardest part of the game, because you still only have 1 character, and even though you're a little bit more, your moveset's more fleshed out and you're stronger than you were before, that Peaceful Rest Valley journey to the second town is a mofo.
Very true.
Yeah, especially if you run afoul of multiple UFOs or trees that explode in your face.
Oh, the exploding trees.
Yep. So I think once you get a second party member finally at the end of that sequence, and Paul is a mage character that can cast elemental magic, while Ness is sort of a Dragon Quest hero type that's heavily armored and has healing magic. I think the game gets a lot easier once you have a full cast to mess around with and more than 1 inventory of items to throw things in. So I guess we'll start with Keegan. You've been a little quiet for the first couple episodes. For the first couple minutes. What was your take on Tucson, Peaceful Rest Valley, and the delightful blue cultists in Happy Happy Village?
So first off, I can say that the Mushroomize status effect can go away and never be seen again, because that was the worst thing that's ever happened to me.
Agreed.
Wasn't it great when the 4th Sanctuary boss decided to bring it back just for old time's sake?
Yup.
I had Paula cast fire on my whole team. It was great.
Oh. But yeah, I agreed definitely that there was not a difficulty jump, but kind of like a relaxation once Paula joined. Although finding those teddy bears around made the game a lot easier in and of itself. Teddy bear currently is my favorite party member. So
yes. Yeah, I would say I got a little frustrated once I didn't have the teddy bears and was still trying to level Paula up a little bit.
Oh yeah,
because she'll join at level 1 while Ness is at least at level. At least level 15, maybe higher.
Yep.
Yeah, so and the same thing happens for Jeff later.
And I believe a similar thing happens with the 4th party member, but he gets level up on his own a little bit first, and it's not as bad a situation as Paula or Jeff, but yeah,
does he earn it?
Yeah, yeah, he does.
We'll talk about that next time.
Yeah, that sequence is okay. I don't remember it maybe as clearly as I'd like to, but that sequence is weird and interesting.
That gave me nightmares as a kid.
Right on. So, staying in Tucson and Happy Happy Village, Hilary, I mean, you seem to run afoul of exploding trees just as I did, but I mean, how about that blue cult? Ness is looking for Paula, who's been kidnapped, and finds a town of people obsessed with the color blue, including talking blue cows. And yeah. One thing as a kid, this is going to be a recurring segment of things I did not understand as a child playing this game for the first time. I did not figure out the maze of blue cultists very well at first. Because I didn't realize you had to talk to the ones that were moving in a slightly different way. It all just sort of looked too similar to me, so I just went and tried to find more ways to rescue Paula in Peaceful Rest Valley and got to level 25 or something stupid.
Oh wow!
Jeez.
Oh no, it'll get weirder later, but I mean, yeah, blue cultists. Hilary, your thoughts?
My thoughts on them in general. It's kind of nice how they had such a quick turnaround after that many statue left. That maze, I don't know if it's because I like a lot of retro titles, but the visual kind of movement cues throughout there didn't bother me quite so much. It was mostly the area around there that really that really tripped me up.
Yeah, it's if you get the Franklin badge, the boss, the cultist boss, is not that difficult. It was just me. Failing to understand a visual cue as a child, I guess. But I agree that Peaceful Rest Valley is real challenging. I'm sorry, I keep interrupting you. It's a problem that I have.
No, totally fine. Yeah, I am really, really thankful for Paula's foresight and that Franklin badge. For sure. That
Franklin badge is helpful the whole game because whoever's holding it will just get lightning attacks reflected, which is a little uncommon, but useful enough for an inventory slot, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed a few enemies later on, and I did go back and get it. I brought it back into my inventory.
And staying in the town of Tucson a little bit, we have one of my favorite NPCs of the game appear for the first time, Apple Kid, and his loser rival Orange Kid.
Yeah, those townspeople have it totally wrong.
Yeah, right. I was actually a little surprised when I was getting near to the end of our stopping point last night. I was in Foreside and I got a call from Orange Kid for the first time. Because I gave him the $200 to invest, even though I know he's useless. And he said, I'm trying to make boiled eggs turn back into raw eggs. I'll get back to you later. And it's like, oh.
I got that call, too. I decided to support both of them,
Right. Yeah, we're just trying to be good, good patrons to science, and we get useless Orange Kid instead of. And by then Apple Kid's invented like 4 things that you're required to advance the game, including a pencil eraser, which erases anything that looks like a pencil. It's not an actual pencil eraser. And a yogurt machine that only makes trout-flavored yogurt. And zombie paper that will capture and immobilize zombies in a flypaper-like substance. And that's just scratching the surface of Apple Kid's beginnings. We're going to see more of Apple Kid because that guy rules.
He gets these inventions to you through his own invention, the phone that can only receive calls.
Yes. I love how his last call before our stopping point was like, I might be an actual genius. I think I'm starting to uncover this big plot and see what's behind all these things. I'm going to go investigate.
Yeah, Apple Kid's a baller. He's awesome. And it's but it's not really communicated right away that he's the one that you should be talking to and not Orange Kid. but you need his pencil eraser to go through Peaceful Rest Valley. So you're gonna have to invest in his inventions if you want to make it through the game.
He's got a little pal too.
Oh right, he has the house mouse, the box mouse.
The mouse that nobody has given a name to.
Right, that's it.
It's a parody of the Natsume Sosuke novel I Am a Cat.
Oh,
the first line of that book is I am a cat. Nobody's given me a name yet, but in this very sort of haughty old style formal Japanese.
Oh wow.
So. Nice little literary reference in his mouth.
That's a reference that definitely went over my head when I was an 11-year-old that could only speak English. But
actually, going back to Happy Valley for a minute, I think if we're pointing out things about tone and irony and things like that, just the fact that the Happy Valley cultists are blue.
Oh, sure.
Kind of cool and interesting, and just visually seeing everything in that valley monotone, and then later on, once you've cleared it.
And also, quick hot take. I think that blue's more like a purple. So, I mean, their cult was over before it began. So, yeah, man, like, and now one last thing I want to talk about in Tucson is another favorite NPC or group of NPCs of mine, the Runaway Five.
Yes.
How dope are the Runaway Five, starring their own fake Aylwood and Jake Blues?
So excited! I had no idea that was in the game. And the second it happened, and even like the music that played, even though it was chiptune, it sounded kind of like a Blues Brothers thing going on.
Well, I mean, they're definitely influenced by the Blues Brothers, except that they play they play with Mario Paint audio. But
they changed the colors for the English release, fearing copyright. They were just in the Blues Brothers outfits.
Yeah. Oh, that's right. I've seen their art. They're in the tuxes and ties, right?
Yeah, you can get statues of them. I really want them.
Ooh.
Oh, that's cool. But it's optional seeing their performance in Tucson. Did you guys watch it?
Yep.
Oh yeah.
Of course.
Awesome.
I was in there talking to them before and after, pretty much at any point I could, just to see how what they said changed.
I love that one of their players only has one song that he's trying to get the band to sing. So he just so whenever he like appears and is part of the plot, he just says, "Money, that's what is hot. Money, that's what I don't got," or or whatever the song is. And also, here's part 2 of young Mike Sollosi not knowing how to play video games. I spent a long time. We're talking hours, hours, and perhaps getting like Ness to 30 and Paul to 20, trying to figure out how to leave Tucson because I didn't realize you have when you give them money to the club owner, you have to go to the side and show it to him from the side, because if you show it to him from the front, he says, "Oh, I can't see that. Can you bring it closer?" And I did not know that meant when I was a child, go around behind the desk and give it to him. And so instead, I was just trying to find some way out of Tucson and leveling up in peaceful Rest Valley again. Yeah.
I did a sort of mini version of that, like for a little while before I remembered this time, because what he says is sort of like, "I want to get a really close look at that."
Right.
So it took me a while to remember. Oh, right.
So yeah.
Why are they always so broke? Like,
well, I mean, they tell you multiple times they're good musicians, but they are hopeless with money and women, which I totally believe. Mm-hmm.
It seems that they're signing these contracts that are disadvantageous to them, and they're bound by the law by, like, basically a scam. I think that's basically what goes on in both of the theaters.
It could be that they're just not great at reading, because when their bus travels from left to right, it says runaway, but when it goes from right to left, it shows runaway backwards. So I think maybe just reading and writing are not their strong suits.
Where's their manager?
They probably represent themselves, which is never a good idea in any situation.
Speaking of problems with numbers, there are 6 of them.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess counting isn't their strong suit either. They just need to watch a lot of Sesame Street and get their act together. Just reading, writing, counting. Man, those are the 3 key skills that I still use every day.
You can go on Square 4 or Square 1 and play with a fat
Square 1. Oh shoot, I remember Square 1. Do you remember they did a math parody of a cop show called MathNet? That I guess was a parody of Dragnet.
Yeah, I do.
That show, they did one murder mystery episode of that show that gave me nightmares as a child. Yes, a math show, the math show that aired between Sesame Street and Bill Nye gave me a nightmare once as a child. It's true.
The Pac-Man parody, Math Man, got kind of into like body horror sometimes.
Yeah, man.
So.
Wow, that sounds like tonally it fits right in with EarthBound sometimes.
Yeah, man, PBS in the late 80s, early 90s was a thing, man. Holy crap. Even more of a horror show than EarthBound. So we finally leave Tucson because we have some, like jammin' soul bros whose bus is so loud that it frightens away the ghosts haunting the tunnel in between 2 towns, and that's a real sentence I just said. And you find that the 3rd town is infested with zombies, but they may be barf zombies or circus zombies. It's really unclear the origin and nature of these zombies. And you get captured by following a woman into her hotel room, which is also not a good idea, children.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And you meet the 3rd character of this adventure, Jeff, who lives in a boarding school in a town called Winters, and eventually visits you via flying machine of sorts. Right?
Skyrunner.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, the Skyrunner.
And Jeff is an interesting cat. We talked about him a little bit earlier when I said he's basically a fake version of one of the Mother 1 characters. Maybe was that before recording?
That was before.
Okay, my bad. Okay. So
in retrospect, the Mother 1 version's a fake one.
Yeah, okay. Jeff is the gun-wielding character. He's nerdy. He can use machines. He can repair things. He has an item that can unlock any door, which seems really useful until you realize you only need it like 3 times, and then you can put it away forever.
He's also got a scan ability instead of psi attacks.
Right, that's right. He's the only character that doesn't have psychic powers. But he has pretty good offense, because he's also the only character that can fire bottle rockets, and those deal a lot of damage, through to the end game even. Oh,
yeah, the big bottle rockets are kind of, the way to finish that game.
Yes.
Yeah, well, there's a third kind of bottle rocket called it's multi-bottle rocket or combo bottle rocket that it'll deal like over $1,000 damage to the final boss. So yeah, that's how you beat the game.
Oh wow!
But so you meet Jeff, and I guess we talked about him before the podcast started recording. So starting with Hilary this time, what are your thoughts on Jeff and what he brings to the team?
I kind of have a soft spot for his type of character. I have to admit. So I was really excited. I knew we were going to meet him. Something that I think I maybe overlooked a little bit with him, and made me appreciate him a little bit more this time around. I got a good sense of him just stepping out and doing something completely different. It doesn't seem like he'd been out of Winters very much, if I had to guess, when he just gets this message from Paula all of a sudden. And, that was a pretty big leap of faith. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah, I guess... Well, Paula also takes quite a leap of faith when she joins you. She can,
Yep.
She called out to you with her psychic powers and was at least somewhat aware of the prophecy, but... I mean, this happens in a lot of RPGs, I guess, but your teammates join you with alarming readiness and quickness, and seem to accept their destiny very easily, which is, amusing looking at it with a slightly more jaded viewpoint as an adult.
Yes, exactly. I think that's what I'm getting at is, being older, and also the fact that Jeff's the one without, the psychic points, so presumably... he's not quite in on as much of the psychic power.
Right. And we mentioned this before again, but I think it's a really fun little mini side quest he has, where when you find broken items and place them in his inventory, sometimes during hotels, if his IQ stat is high enough, he can turn them into useful items, and including some weapons for himself, which is a cool little thing, and it makes finding certain types of items in treasure chests or present boxes even a little more fun, which I accept. I mean, I've been playing RPGs for so long. I'm like one of Pavlov's dogs whenever I see a present box or a treasure chest.
Right.
Right on. So Jeff rescues your teammates from the zombies from zombie jail in the crypt. And then you try to get to the bottom of the zombie outbreak, which you solve with Apple Kid's zombie paper, of course. And then you go to one of the most delightful parts of the game, Saturn Valley.
Yes.
So, Keegan, you're the newbie. I'm going to pick on you over and over for 2 episodes. I need to hear what you think about Saturn Valley.
Okay, so this is going back to our Dragon Quest episode, but how we talked about it was hard to read Sancho's dialogue in that game. In
Continue.
retrospect, Sancho speaks perfect English compared to reading Saturn text. Like, my eyes hurt after reading it. But, on the other hand, it is a very cool place. I like how pretty much, the healing is free there, along with the doctor, you stay at the inn for free. But also just, like, the Saturns themselves.
Oh yeah, they're immediately friendly and welcoming. Mr. Saturns are better than humans, just straight up.
They are so pure, and they have transcended the need for money.
And okay, I mean, this is controversial opinion. My favorite Mr. Saturn, probably Mr. Saturn. Robert, you? Do you have a favorite Mr. Saturn?
I mean, it's so hard to pick. Do you mind if I give you my top 3?
All right, go. Hit me.
Mr. Saturn, Mr. Saturn.
Okay, so it makes sense so far.
Mr. Saturn.
Oh, wow.
Oh, really?
Man. Spitting hot fire at the last one there.
Dr. Saturn is in a close fourth, but the top 3, you got to go with those 3.
And, you say this, I maybe... okay. It was clear earlier, but maybe not clear to Keegan, who hasn't played this yet. Mr. Saturn, my favorite Mr. Saturn, you don't even meet him until the second half of the game. So, yeah, Saturn Valley is a totally absurd land where some strange circular people live, and a couple of them are heartbreakingly enslaved by a pile of barf named Barf. Or, I'm sorry, named Master Barf.
Master Belch.
Master
Barf
Belch.
comes
Oh,
later.
right. Oh, Master Barf is the Master Belch palette swap. My mistake. Okay, I'm sorry. See, it's been a long
He's
time.
Master Belch's Barfy Master.
Right. Yeah, Master Belch's Barfy Master Barf. Got it. So, but you, okay, now here's part 3 of Sollosi didn't understand this game as a child. The password to get into Master Belch's lair is to sit still for 3 minutes. But like Keegan, I had difficulty reading the Mr. Saturn text and didn't always understand what they were saying. So the Mr. Saturn tells you to wait at the waterfall for 3 minutes went right over my head. So
This is
yeah.
some Takeshi's Challenge kind of stuff.
Yeah, so it took me a while to figure out that's what I had to do. Maybe I even had to call the friend I borrowed the game from. I don't remember exactly. This was 20 plus years ago. But so yeah, to enter Master Belch's lair, you have to stand still under a waterfall for 3 minutes. And I was never happier to have a fast forward button than I was for replaying that right now. Mm-hmm. That was nifty, but yeah, Master Belch is the source of the zombie outbreak. So once you defeat him, all of the zombies are gone, and 3 has nice peppy music instead of sad dark music.
I will say though that Master Belch's dungeon is the first time in the game that my party wiped, and it's been a constant stream since then. Like, and it might have been, I think it was my fault too because I didn't spend a lot of time leveling Jeff up to Ness and Paula's level.
Oh.
But like, and honestly, it was that rolling die. Like, I try to figure out how much HP they take, and I'll be like, oh, it's fine. I look down, Jeff's dead. Ness has no PP left. It's just Paula swinging a frying pan at this point. Like, this game can punish you if you don't pay attention to it.
Yeah.
It can.
But the defense stat is very powerful in EarthBound. So if it's too low, you'll take enormous damage, but if it's significantly higher than like the enemy's average attack, then you'll barely take any damage. So paying attention to your armor and keeping equipped is very important to surviving in EarthBound. More so than it should be. It's like it's not the most perfectly balanced RPG.
That is a lesson I had to relearn, for sure.
But I think Keegan alluded to this a little bit. One interesting mechanic that EarthBound has is the rolling health bars, where whenever you take it looks like your health number is a number that, and when you take damage or heal yourself, it rolls, sort of like numbers on a slot machine or in a Rolodex or something. So you can see it scrolling down to a lower number if you take a lot of damage, and if you take mortal damage, a hit that will kill you. But if your gut stat is high enough, sometimes you'll be left with 1, even if you take normal damage. While your health is scrolling down, if you act quickly enough, you can have Ness or someone use a healing spell or item to heal them back up before their health reaches 0, and you can subvert the subvert death blows a little bit that way. And I've had to
do this by finishing the battle.
That's right. That's true.
The game expects you to do that, which I think is really cool. There's a mole, I think, with those exploding trees before Happy Valley, and he kind of basically tells you to do that to get through the battle before Ness's HP.
Yeah, there's a couple friendly moles in the game that will inform you about some about new game mechanics or basic game mechanics a couple times. There's one in 1.net, and there's one at Happy Valley, right? That
is one of the things that I really, really appreciate about this game is that they do expect you to be a little bit subversive that way, and they encourage it.
And I also don't really know of any other game that does this, that allows you to... Because I mean, in a Dragon Quest game, which is maybe the easiest thing to compare EarthBound to in a lot of ways, the damage that you take is instant, and the numbers just change immediately. And I don't know of other games where, you can, have the damage over time and where basically every move is like a DOT or an HOT, so you can, stop damage in its tracks a little bit if you're quick enough. I don't know of other RPGs that do that, which is a little strange because it's fun and interesting, and usually if something's fun and interesting, it'll be copycatted quickly.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's just one of those things that sets EarthBound apart from the crowd.
Mm-hmm. And also, EarthBound was a very early example of a turn-based RPG that had enemies visible in the field.
Oh yeah,
it's really nice. I mean, playing a game from that era that doesn't have random encounters, because I mean, I am very comfortable with the idea of random encounters. I have played hundreds of hours of games with random encounters, but it's refreshing not to have to deal with them. It gives you some level of control of what you fight and what you don't fight, and And most of the time, I think EarthBound plays fair with what enemies do. Like there's relatively few times where they'll give you no chance or no information on an enemy going for you. Which, I mean, that can be a bit of a pet peeve of mine, of them, having providing information like visible enemies or something, and then just throwing it out the window and giving you a near random encounter anyway. That's something. That's something I find annoying. It happens sometimes, but not in EarthBound. I think they mostly play fair with their encounters.
And in contrast to other contemporary RPGs that showed encounters on the field, like Chrono Trigger or Romancing Saga, EarthBound's got that wonderful little feature where if you're at a high enough level, the enemies will flee from you.
And when you defeat the boss of a sanctuary dungeon, they'll automatically flee from you.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great little feature.
Yeah,
I did want to ask though, for you guys who've played it before, I personally kind of get a little bit of a Chrono Trigger vibe from this game. Like, a lot of things together kind of give me the same feelings. Starts off pretty lighthearted, then starts to get a little bit darker. The visible enemies things, obviously. But, like, the whole adventure itself, and I don't know how the game ends, but I've seen the last boss, and comparing it to Lavos and everything. Like, I don't know, it just...
I guess
it's giving me, like, a parallel, you know?
Maybe. I mean, they're both...
Yeah, I don't see it personally, but that's an interesting take.
I think tonally the games are very different. Like, Chrono is a... even though Chrono does a lot of things that are unique for RPGs of that time and place, it basically is traditional in the adventure you're going on and the sort of tone of the game. Even though it does get darker later, but I mean, EarthBound doesn't feel like any other game of its time and place.
Right? Yeah, of course. I just getting those little hints from the side, you know? I want to see if anybody else felt it.
I think I would compare it to Chrono Trigger, as both of them are excellent RPGs on the Super Nintendo from around the same time. But I don't really think of them being as a 1-to-1 comparison.
Chrono Trigger draws inspiration from the JRPG genre, as well as anime and manga with Toriyama's influence, whereas EarthBound it's like the only JRPG that I can think of that doesn't use manga and anime culture as a reference point. It feels completely divorced from that. It's like, if anything, it would be like, it feels like it has more in common with like an alternative manga, but it's very iconoclastic in that way.
We're actually thinking about it. What about American comics? I mean, I know they're a little young, but...
A little bit. Well, I mean, Robert did mention that you think Itoi might have been inspired by Charles Schulz, and
definitely with that Pigpen character, yeah.
Yeah, you see.
Yeah, there's even a recurring NPC look that's basically Pigpen. But
Schulz and Itoi, they both in Peanuts and in EarthBound, there's a kind of like existential zen.
Yeah, especially
sorry, go ahead.
Especially early Peanuts, when people sort of might look back on Peanuts, since it went on for 50 years or so, of it being a maybe somewhat innocent an innocent comic with just some memorable child personalities in it.
It turned into the Snoopy show eventually, but before then,
it was dark and serious. It was a countercultural comic that was in tune with with America's sort of greater feelings of ennui and depression during the Vietnam era. Old Peanuts gets weird and dark, especially
and existential.
And like Charlie Brown is a regular Eeyore sometimes, to compare it to another Western classic, illustrated character, but you're right. Like, EarthBound does not really feel like it's drawing from traditional fantasy sci-fi JRPG ideas, and is coming from a more unique place. American comics might have been an influence, more to I think written science fiction probably was an influence at times. It was probably influenced by Japanese literature and science fiction, and not necessarily manga and fantasy. I would say.
Oh yeah, I mean there's a reference to Almost Transparent Blue in there, which is weird.
So and Itoi is a well-known copywriter and essayist in Japan. He was even a guest judge in one episode of Iron Chef, which makes him a legend, which immediately makes him a legend. I think Chen Kenichi won that episode because he wins most of the episodes. But yeah, like it doesn't really feel like any RPG of its time, and is part of what makes EarthBound unique and special and resonate with so many people. And maybe we've mentioned this earlier this episode, but I think one of the great fan sites of the internet is starmen.net, which is the place to go to for Mother or EarthBound stuff. And they do amazing work. Their guides are excellent. Their archives are excellent. Their media resources are excellent. They have annual and semi-annual events and contests related to EarthBound. They've been around for, I think, 20 years, maybe a little more.
Yeah, I think like 20. I think it's the 21st or 22nd year.
Yeah, it's a year older than RPG Fan at least, and also older than the very ancient website that I used to write for that's still around, Caves of Narsh. But Starmen is, I think, one of the most impressive fan sites out there. So anyone listening that has not visited there before and has at least a casual interest in EarthBound or Mother should check out what they have going on, because they've been doing excellent fan site work for decades, and it's pretty impressive. So I'm going to go back to moving linearly through the EarthBound plot, because I guess that's how this episode is turning out. But after they escape Threed, they go through the desert, go to a town called Fourside, which is much larger than any of the other three. Have to bust the Runaway Five out of a bad contract again, and this time, as a child, I knew to go to the side of the theater manager when I had to present her the treasure to get them out of there. You talk to maybe my favorite dumb joke in EarthBound. The 5 moles that all believe they are the third strongest mole.
Oh my God.
They're good.
That is a thing. Like I was laughing at the absurdity of that even as a preteen. I mean, 5 people each believing they're a third strongest is just great.
It is really good.
And the number 3 floating in the background when you fight them, all of them.
Right.
The game knows things. The game thinks they are too.
Third mole.
And one of them goes, I rank somewhere between second and fourth strongest. And the last one says, you have beaten my strongest cohort, and the second strongest, and the weakest, and the second strongest. And I will show you the true power of what is third strongest. It's oh man, it's what an awesome joke to tell for 20 straight minutes over 5 boss battles.
If anything, Itoi is really dedicated to his running joke. is fantastic.
Yes, fantastic commitment.
Yeah, I mean, and just the humor in general in this game is so strong. It's it's offbeat. It's weird. It's both visual and writing, and there's puns sometimes. Like what name the famous song Blank Today, and then your options are yes or no.
Yep.
Like just like silly little things like that, and sort of more involved jokes like the third strongest mole. There is so much to laugh at EarthBound. I'm still laughing at the jokes I laughed at as a child playing it as a 30-year-old man.
One of my favorites this time around was there's a random Mr. Saturn after you help them out in Saturn Valley.
Mr. Saturn, I know that one. Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, he is talking about Ness, and he says delicious Ness.
Oh, right.
Yeah, the puns.
Man, even when like their handwriting looks like it was a dog peeing in the snow, they still understand puns.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Although the desert and having to return to it is not exactly my favorite portion of the game, I think the whole thing with the mine and the moles, the whole scenario itself is there's some interesting backstory to that it.
Oh, hit me.
Using it as
Let's
context,
go deep, Robert. Let's go deep. Come on.
Using it as context, it's it shows you that Itoi. It really demonstrates his sense of humor and shows that he's not afraid to laugh at it himself. So basically, in 1868, when Edo,
let's go deep. Come on.
Yeah, here we go. So when Edo became Tokyo, legend has it that some ninja bandits stole a whole bunch of gold and then buried
Ninja
it
Bandits,
in the
I'm with you.
mountains.
Okay.
During the 1990s, some new information came to light that convinced Itoi that the gold was buried at Mount Akagi. So he hired a video crew and a construction team and all this construction equipment, and he televised this big dig for gold. He was like, "We're really going to find it."
Right, and when you're fighting the moles, what was a hole earlier in the game is a larger excavation with a crowd of people around it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Right.
but like Geraldo Rivera and Al Capone's vault, this big dig into the mountains that was televised for all the glory amounted to nothing. They found absolutely nothing at all. And Itoi was very good humored about it. He said, like, "Hey, I produced the world's first civil engineering show." And then obviously he put this whole scenario in EarthBound as well, just, poking fun at. It was a big waste of time, and everybody was excited. And I really, really like that.
That is cool, and that maybe it fits in a little bit. That after you defeat the moles and you the miner and his brother that you help out, thank you. On your way back to Fourside, one of them comes up behind you, goes, "Hey man, we couldn't find gold, but we did find this useless diamond in it, so you can have that, I guess." and you use the diamond to free the Runaway Five again. So yeah, I was not aware of that anecdote, Robert, and thank you so much for telling it to us.
And special shout out to Pincho, Pancho, and Tomas Jefferson as well. I love those guys.
Wait, are those the Mexican slot machine brothers that in the desert?
Yes.
Yeah, oh God, I didn't remember those and them, and when I encountered them earlier this week playing the game, oh man, that was a delight.
They're so funny.
Pincho, Pancho, and Tomas Jefferson. Excellent. So in Foresight, you encounter Pokey again, our favorite fat asshole neighbor, and pardon my French.
He's a real apartment.
Yeah, he's a real piece of work. But you end up traveling into an opposite day version of Foresight, and finally smashing that evil statue that is seems to be influencing adults to be very cruel to children. It's called Moonside, right? I was thinking Dark Side, and I knew that was wrong. So I was trying to think of the name of the alt Foresight, and it's Moonside. So what do you guys think of Moonside? Just like switching the contrast to the opposite for the entire town, and maybe hurting your eyes a little bit. Starting with you, Keegan, what exactly went through your head when you found Moonside?
Joke's on you guys, because I'm colorblind, so it didn't affect me that much.
Oh, jeez.
Although, it was
that might have made it worse if the reds looked like greens.
Red, green. Still all gray.
Yep. Whatever. Well, I mean, but just the weirdness of that, like finding Salvador Dali clocks and
yes.
and even like the hotel and the hospital having yes and no flipped. Just like the little weird touches in Moonside make it a pretty memorable weird place.
But then when it happened, I was like, this game's really weird.
It took that long for you to think the game was weird.
No. I thought it was weird at first. And then it jumped ahead, and I was like, oh, now we're at the weird part.
Yeah, it goes full Dadaism at this point.
Yeah.
I fully admit I had a friend walk by when I first got to Moonside and go, "Is it supposed to look like that?"
This time, or when you played it many years ago?
This time.
Okay.
Actually.
Man. Moonside is something, and poor Mayor Monotoli. He just ends
I don't have too much sympathy for him.
Well, I mean, I felt bad for him when he tried to help you, and then Pokey ruined it because Pokey's the worst. But
I have a question. I might have just been missing talking to certain NPCs, but how does Pokey keep jumping up in these certain situations? Like,
it's not explained. It's very. He's just a jerk, and the plot's a little bit bare bones about that.
Yeah,
it's up to your imagination, really.
I think it starts with him just being a jerk and stealing that statue from your other neighbor, and
Yes.
You don't even see him steal.
Yeah, you don't even. Yeah. Basically, you don't even hear. You don't see him steal it. You just you learn that he stole it long after the fact. And that's only if you talk to Liar, Exaggerate, and see the statue for the first time. And But I think that the influence of the statue sort of brings Pokey close to the evil force that's going on in the background of the game, and that just escalates his badness and has him staying involved in the plot, which is it's kind of shocking how long he stays involved in the plot.
Yeah, and it helps kind of maneuver him along.
That's what I thought, but I wasn't getting any confirmations from the game itself, so I wasn't 100% sure.
Well, I like how the Many statue is not the cause of all of the woes. It's the cause of some of the woes, but there's also bad people who are still bad even after they're no longer under the influence, So it's not this magic fix. Some people are just jerks in this world, and I think that's something that you don't often see in these types of games. Usually it's it's when the corrupting influence is gone, everything is idealistic, and things aren't quite so simple here.
There's still a range. There's always a range.
Yeah, and I don't think the police officers in Winnet were affected by the statue, and that's quite a message. 5 police officers trying to beat up a kid who was rude to one of them.
It ties up with my experience with small town cops. So,
so one other thing that I think we've talked about a little bit off air, but I haven't mentioned yet, is that part of the ongoing quest of the game is that Ness has to locate places called sanctuaries that are. I don't know if any of them have a visual significance. I don't know why the first 2 are Giant Step and Lilliput Steps. There may be a hidden meaning that I don't understand, but there's just these unusual places where there's just a feeling of peace, and each of them has a little melody that Ness records in an item called a soundstone. And one thing that I find very satisfying, and I do it usually every time I go to a sanctuary, is use the soundstone item in your inventory and just hear the songs chained together to form the larger song, which is just delightful. It's so sweet, and they did the same thing in Mother 1, but I don't know. It's just a little quest mechanic that I really enjoy.
You get to see those cute little kind of postcard icons for each of the sanctuaries, too.
Mm-hmm. And there's really great art of the sanctuaries in one of the old EarthBound art books that I perused in starmen.net, and it was cool seeing those, too. Mm-hmm.
I need to take a look at that, because I was really liking the sanctuaries and kind of getting a road trip, very American sort of vibe from them.
Yes.
And it's the sanctuaries also make the world feel a little contiguous, because Jeff finds the bosses to the boss of the 4th sanctuary when you're doing your little solo bit with him long before you return there with Ness to beat the boss. And maybe this is a minor spoiler, but you can see the 5th sanctuary from behind a wall in Fourside. Yes, it's a little sort of pyramid looking thing behind the department store, there's this
supposed peeping Tom looking over the wall, and he's like, I don't think.
Yeah, and he even says,
I don't think that's my space. That might be yours.
Yeah, exactly. And so, the sanctuaries are, they're real rooted places in this world, and you can, and they're significant, and I don't know. They just seem like a very fun sort of MacGuffin that I don't know, really works with me. Maybe because they have a music tie-in and are unique and weird, and I don't understand why one of them's Milky Well and why one of them's Rainy Circle. Why are these important? I don't know, but the music's nice.
Agreed.
I also really like the music in Winters.
A lot of the music in this game
Orphanage.
A lot of the music in this game is really nice. It uses a sort of unsophisticated chipset. Like a lot of it is straight from Mario Kart, and it's not as rich or interesting as the chipset that Konami and Square Games are doing at this time.
Yep.
There is a drum sample ripped directly from Sgt. Pepper that comes in later on. So,
but it's a lot of the music is really good, and I'm not going to hate. Even for an older episode of this show, I think it was the Super Nintendo episode, I used the OneNet theme for an outro, I think. So yeah, I can't hate on the music. So we have been all over the first half of EarthBound. Do we have anything that we want to specifically address before we start closing down the shop?
I think I've said my piece on my end about this first part so far. I'm just excited to see where it leads. Go down this rabbit hole.
Cool. Oh, I have one thing. The monster designs in this game get real strange and real fun. So I just want to run down the panel, starting with you, Keegan. Do you have a favorite monster that you've encountered in this game? And I say monster in air quotes because some of these things are just normal things that have to turn back to normal.
I think favorite design, I'd have to probably go with the Mad Duck. I just like its dead eyes staring at me constantly.
Mad Duck.
Although I will
Mad
say,
Duck.
I know you asked for favorite. My least favorite, the ants that you fight in the mines.
Oh yeah, the gigant ants.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They take way too much damage, and they poison you way too much, and they take all of Paula's PP, and I can't deal with it.
Yeah, they do die in one freeze spell, but they are annoying.
Oh, I should have been doing that then. Whoops.
Yeah, like it's if you just try to mindlessly press A in this game and defeat everything with regular attacks, you're gonna have a bad time.
It's hard.
Because monsters do have elemental and spell weaknesses that are good to exploit, especially if you get lucky and find magic butterflies to restore your PP.
Yeah.
In my defense, I was saving those free spells for the moles. So
And the moles will also die in
Yep.
one freeze gamma. That's true. So, Rob, do you have a favorite monster or enemy design that we've encountered in the first half?
Well, I too am quite partial to the Mad Duck. I always feel a little sad fighting him though, because I just think of bludgeoning this cute, weird little duck, and that gets me down a
when
bit.
you look at it realistically, here's 3 kids walking around beating the crap out of animals and trees.
Yeah.
With baseball bats and
Yeah.
frying pans and ray guns.
Yeah.
It's like, why did that child just launch a bottle rocket at a tree? And why did the tree explode?
I like most of the bosses that we've seen so far, from the fantastic animals like Mondo Mole to Mr. Carpainter himself of the Happy-Happyists. I'm a real big fan of the moving items that you see, like the scalding cup of coffee or the noose man. And especially the Mad Taxi. I really, really like the cute little taxi cab. And on the topic of the cute little UFO is probably one of my favorites in the entire game.
I like
a UFO with a little lady's bow. That's wonderful.
Yeah, there's a lot of sort of mid 20th century Americana interpretations of alien invasions in EarthBound.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of little Gray Man style alien designs and floaty little UFOs, that are fighting you alongside trees and ducks and cultists that with teardrop hats. It's the monster designs are all over the place in this game. My personal favorite are some of the insane humans that you meet, like the New Age retro hippie, or
Yes.
the annoying Revelator is a good one. The cranky old lady, I think, is one. I might have the adjective wrong on her.
I like how there are cranky ladies and extra cranky ladies.
Right.
She means business.
So, Hilary, do you have a favorite monster that we've met so far in the first half?
You mentioned most of them, honestly, but I feel a deep connection with the clumsy robot.
The clumsy robot boss! That thing really effed my ass up! Oh, man! I had to use some life noodles. I think I did lose to it, wipe out to the clumsy robot once, but it helped the second time when I put threw shields on Jeff.
Yes.
But man, that was an unexpected boss that really was much more threatening than it looked.
It's defeated in an unexpected way.
Yes.
Yes.
And I love it that the first activity you do in Foreside is deal with the moles and free the Runaway Five. And when you talk to them before you encounter the moles, they say, "Oh, you should free us again. You're going to need our help to talk to Mr. Monotoli." It's like, what? Like, how do you know this, and where is this coming from? But yeah, they rescue you from the clumsy robot
By simply turning it off.
Mm-hmm. God, that reminds me of a Danganronpa 2 scenario that we'll talk about next week. But speaking of next week, I think we're about done with this week, fellas, and lady, gentleman and lady. So, do we have any actual final things to address before I, hijack the podcast again with my own nonsense?
One true pairing: the black and white sesame seeds.
I don't know. My OTP is Everdread with the extra cranky old lady.
Whoa, okay. You're into that.
Yeah, we go deep on Retro Encounter. We go 1868 Ninja Bandits and Everdread matchmaking on this episode. So, I think that about does it. Thank you, listeners, for putting up with us for over an hour talking about the delightful EarthBound, and thank you to Hilary, Robert, and Keegan for joining me on this podcast. Next week, we're going to be talking about Danganronpa 2, which I alluded to a short time ago. That's going to be a special follow-up episode to the... only one episode, though, to the Danganronpa 1 episodes that we recorded last year. And then following that, we'll have a second part to our EarthBound episode. If you want to contact us, the best way to do so is to email us at retro@rpgfan.com. We read everything that's directed to us. You can also comment on the rpgfan.com message boards, visit the rpgfan.com Facebook page, and find us on Twitter at rpgfancom. And if you're listening to us on iTunes, please rate and review us. It'll expose the podcast to more listeners. And also, spread the word. We're a podcast that records every week and have fun doing it. So, before we say our farewells, starting with you, Hilary, how can listeners find you?
I am EP Fire on the boards. And that's probably the best way to reach me at this point.
Oh, so are you in the? Are you joining Rob Simon in the I Don't Have a Twitter club?
Yes, actually.
Okay. All right, I got it. That's fine. No judgment. We're a judgment-free zone here. Unless someone says they like Kingdom Hearts, I guess. But and it's Keegan. So how can listeners find you if they wish to do so?
You guys can find me as a Fozzie Bear on the boards. I'm also on Twitter as Kaylee Brand. Feel free to stop by and send a tweet towards me.
Right on. And Robert, same question.
Once again, I am Townscar Marty on the boards, and I'm on Twitter at MissanthroBob. Hit me up. I'm always open to talking about any of the Mother games.
And
so,
also,
let's do it.
And also, Robert and one of his friends have a delightful website called misanthropop.com, and a website and a podcast called Misanthroplay. And I have perused the website and listened to several of those podcasts. They're very nice and worth your listening time.
Oh. Well, thank you so much.
Oh,
we got an episode on Gunstar Heroes going up soon, so look for that.
Ooh, I love Gunstar Heroes. Man,
it's the best.
The Genesis one and the GBA one, both A+.
No argument here.
All right, this is not a Gunstar Heroes podcast, although now I have a mind to start one. You think it's RPG enough to cover on the website? Come on.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. We'll do a special, Mega Man and Gunstar episode.
Oh,
hey.
I'm about that.
Mm-hmm.
Guardian Heroes, on the other hand, that's got a leveling system.
It does. I do like me some Fantasy Final Fight on Saturn. Is there a way to play Guardian Heroes legally now without a Saturn? Is it on?
It's on 360.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Download.
All right. I was not aware of that, but I hadn't aggressively pursued that idea either, which makes sense. So this is not a Guardian Heroes podcast or a Gunstar Heroes podcast or any kind of Heroes podcast. It is a EarthBound podcast, and now it is over. Thank you. Good night and good luck.
Bye-bye.
Bye.